One of the commenters on my channel CD said, maybe we can see some videos on Thranduil, his relationship with the dwarves and the gems of Lasgalen. Actually, I was wondering what he was referring to when he was talking about the Serpents of the North. Thanks for the question. So today's video is something in which we learn from the behind the scenes commentary of the Hobbit films. Everything that happened to Thranduil, his wife, the gems, the scar on his face, that was all purely made up by Peter Jackson and his crew, and is not in the books at all. Therefore, it is not canon. The thing that they drew inspiration from that is in the books is the Elven King that was of course in it, and Thingol, Lúthien's father, who is the Woodland King and Baron of Lúthien. They felt that they needed to make this character who they're bringing to life have more dimensions to him, and thus they needed to essentially amalgamate the characters and add on a whole story arc, which I thought was one of the best things about the films, and unfortunately, some of the best parts to do with his story were cut out. Now, like Thranduil, Thingol was very arrogant. He was also someone who had a certain taste for jewels, and in the Elven King's case, it was especially for silver and white gems. And so, they decided to deepen the story a bit by giving him a reason as to why Thranduil was so adamant on getting his white gems from the mountain, and they wanted to give him a reason to go to the mountain without it feeling greedy, as writer and co-producer Philippa Boyens put it. And the reason he wanted to retrieve them so desperately was because that they once belonged to his deceased wife. According to this film, it's one of the reasons why the elves and the dwarves have a rivalry in the first place, because when the dwarves crafted it and offered it to the elves, either the elves did not give them the rightful pay, or the dwarves stole it from them. This was a concept that was inspired by one of the reasons why the two races have bad blood, and this scene was one of the ones, as mentioned earlier, that were deleted, which in my opinion would have added a lot to the recurring theme and foreshadowing of how friendships and people can be lost, as seen within Thorin and Bilbo later on in the trilogy, for example. The other great scene that directly relates to this, that was cut out, was a scene where Gandalf tells Thranduil, "Those gems were not all your wife left you, my friend. She left you a son. Tell me, which would she have you value more?" Those 15 seconds would have helped the audience understand Thranduil's true motivation, and he would have been a fully developed character by that point, who finally has resolve at the end when he talks to his son, Legolas Greenleaf. Moving on to the question, I was wondering what he was referring to when talking about the Serpents of the North. Well, again, this is something that was added to the backstory. In short, what this scene implies is that Thranduil has been through a great deal of pain and trauma, and those Serpents of the North are fire drakes that he has faced, no pun intended. And the reason it's so painful, at least from what we can assume, is because not only does he remember the pain of the scar itself, but he is also constantly reminded of the loss of his wife. Thank you all so much for watching. If you enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Let me know in the comments down below what you think of Thranduil as a character, and until next time, I bid you farewell.